So, this is Chernont, and this is our fourth diary update about Locus Mines. Last time, I said Locus Mines was underrated, and I still think it is. I don't know if it's super OP anymore, but it actually still might be. You ever make a build that like hasn't been tested, and you're like, wow, if somebody was actually good at making builds, if it tried this out, they'd figure something out really cool. That's how I feel about Locus Mines right now. I'm not really the greatest build maker. Should be obvious, I guess. I don't make build guides. I tend to follow meta builds and stuff like that. Because there's so many meta builds out there, they seem fun to try that I haven't tried yet. So I do those, because that way I get a nice smooth time with the game. But I also really like the mine playstyle, and this is one of the mines of playstyles of a time. But I was going to do a more scripted PSA, or scripted build diary thing. Unfortunately, it's been taking a bit, so I figured I'd put like a stalling level of build mine diary out first. Big things. PSA, Asenath's Mark does not work with mines, and I should have seen that coming. Because, like any piece of text that says, when you do stuff like, say, attack with a bow, mines are not you. While they inherit your stats, they do not count as you for things like you gain a power charge on hit or on kill with like Power Siphon, or when you attack an enemy like Asenath. So no, Asenath does not work, which means no orbs for me, which was a huge hinge point for getting more hits in. So I'm going to have to figure something else out. I also suspect with Machina Mitts that increasing Leech's life for me will not actually work with mines, but I have yet to test that out. 1% damage dealt by your mines leech to use life. Well, the thing is, that's dealt by my mines, not me, so that's not my life leech. Total recovery will probably work, but I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Machina Mitts, by the way, it was a cheap unique at the start. I also think it's still optional, but Leech is very comfy. It's good when you're low on flask, but it's really probably not needed. Especially since it doesn't leech fast enough. Like, I might have to test the instant leech node and see if it works with Machina Mitts. If it does, that would help, but that's also like at least 3 points to get the mastery, and that's no fun. Alright, let's go over gear. Bottled Faith dropped. It is not needed at all. It's arguably not good compared to just a Stibnite Flask for my blind effect. Let's talk about progress first, actually, instead of gear. We got 2 Void Stones. Exarch and Eater are dead. I'll probably upload some kill vids of them. They were very clean, except for Exarch. I died to the ball phase, because of course I did. Eater was deathless. The fights did take a while. Thing I've discovered about this build is it actually has decent projection, even with Burning Arrow. Its damage is, with this setup at least, questionable. And the big thing is getting enemies to be hit by enough projectiles to merit Locus Mines, rather than just doing a heavy single target, is the big drawback. But then again, I don't have like a super duper expensive bow, so whether or not it's just the damage or the bow, it remains to be seen. Anyways, I did try a tier 16 Black Star afterwards with life and double damage mods, and that was a KO. If I played better on the first 5 portals instead of the way I played on the 6th portal, I could have gotten it, but yeah, no. So, other PSAs. Why am I using Burning Arrow was, I think, asked, because it scales with Ignite. Well, technically it doesn't scale with Ignite, it's just really good with Ignite. See, It says it does added damage to ignited enemies, and I'm not taking use about the ignite part, even though it has chance to ignite and stuff. I'm taking advantage of the added damage against ignite part. It's like combustion in that sense. I think it's combustion, right? Shut up, Kosis. Whichever skill... It's either immolate or combustion. It might be immolate. Yeah, like damage against burning enemies, for instance. That's flat damage, right? So the idea is I get one ignite off, and that's like 4 seconds worth, and then Burning Arrow suddenly has an extra 250 on average flat added damage before scaling. The idea is, see, Burning Arrow, the reason it's good with ignite is because it attacks very slow, so you just let the ignite go off, but the other way you can build it is you do something that bypasses the slow up attack speed, like, say, mines, and that's what I'm trying. Unfortunately, even with the really absurd attack damage and added damage numbers, like this does twice as much effective added damage as the next bow skill down. Like Lightning Arrow is like 140% of base, and this is 300. The thing is, Burning Arrow doesn't have innate good projection. I'm using LMP, but once I get +2 arrow on either between the quiver and the bow, or just put a +2 bow, then I'll swap out LMP with, I don't know, added cold, weapon elemental damage, returning proj, something. I actually like returning proj for coverage, especially with fork. Some sort of chain or fork with returning proj adds a lot of coverage. So, yeah, and for boss fights I've been swapping fork with barrage. Though that even doesn't feel great because of the bow accuracy. The bow misses a decent amount is the problem. Like LMP is nice because it'll hit things, but you notice that. But trying to get, like, say, barrage, let's show it out here on a boss. Like, you have to hit them pretty precisely. Not to mention, barrage has, with minefield, has some pretty slow mine throwing speed. And without it, you get way less projectiles. So I don't know if I actually would do barrage, because it does say, let's see, 5% more trap and mine throwing speed per projectile, and you throw a lot of projectiles. So, yeah, that's a lot of slowdown. I would not recommend barrage in retrospect. Probably just added cold damage or something, and take out LMP with added cold, and just keep fork or wed or something. Anyways, or just swap out LMP with returning barrage, maybe. Or not even swap out LMP. Yeah, barrage makes you throw mine slower, which means you're stuck in place more and not great. Oh yeah, did I mention charge mines and devastating devices work with Locus mines? I have a theory about this. So, when your mine is detonated targeting an enemy, even though Locus mine says that it is targeting you somewhere, targeting your location, and this says targeting enemy, I think those overlap. I don't think that's an unintended mechanic. I think the reason it says targeting an enemy is because they don't want to say when hitting an enemy, because that's a different effect, essentially. That would mean only hit skills do it. Not to mention, it would be more like saying when hitting at least one enemy. I don't know if AoE works with this. I assume it does, which doesn't count as hitting an enemy sometimes. So I imagine targeting an enemy is just an effect that makes sense for these skills to interact rather than relying on on-hit effects or something like that. What other things was I requested? Yeah, why use Burning Arrow? Explain that. Yeah, at least in the second video, a lot of people wanted to see gameplay footage. Let me just say where I'm at. This build is not tanky right now. I swapped out from Ricochet to Far Shot and Endless Munitions, even with Barrage. Even without Barrage, I think the Far Shot skill is probably best, especially with returning Proj eventually. Skill Fire's 2 additional Proj is just needed. I don't think Ricochet is good for single target. I'm bouncing back and forth between Farshot and Ricochet, honestly. But I do think Wind Ward is really needed for tier 16s currently, because I am Squish. And Gathering Winds, of course, is just really good, especially for Mind Throwing speed. Finally got my Pantheon of Reduced Effective Chill, so that was really recent. Got a 6-link that isn't a Corrupt, which is really nice. Swapped out bows that have extra proj for more damage. Eventually I will get a bow that has good damage and an extra proj on the quiver and the thingy. Oh yeah, the other PSA before I start mapping is breakpoints. You want arguably an even number of arrows, which if I take out LMP, notice I get 2 extra proj. The problem is that means it doesn't hit your center, so you get like this inaccuracy to it. It's the same principle that explosive arrows has, where you want an odd number of total projectiles. I'm using LMP currently for that, but the other big thing about Locus Mines, right here, is that their support skills fire 30% less projectiles. While that doesn't apply to secondary projectiles like in Tornado Shot, you still want to have, I think, either 1, 5, or 8 total projectiles for the 1 projectile, 3 projectiles, or 5 projectiles. 8 projectiles is a little hard to get. 5 projectiles is totally doable with endless munitions and some +2 bow stuff. And even number projectiles are fine for clear, but they make single targets, even on bosses. Map bosses feel miserable, so that's a thing. Spell suppress capped. Wind Ward is nice for the extra damage. It still feels very evasion based. I think you could go armor and evasion, but you'd have to take out skitterbots and maybe some clarity or something, and it'd be really hard to scale both. Scale all 3 of evasion, armor, and damage. Like even with Eldritch Battery for like the Divine Blessing Malevolence idea, Eldritch Battery, you'd still have to have a bunch of unreserved mana to support mines. Like I barely have enough to throw 3 volleys, which is enough to summon all my mines out. A lot of people put mines on left click. I like Steel Skin on left click because it saves me a gem slot to have casting damage taken. Especially since I have no armor, so Molten Shell casting damage taken doesn't work, which is the ideal, I'd say. And I don't have endurance charges, so I can't do casting damage taken Immortal Call. If I could figure out either endurance charges on kill or armor, then I would recommend that, so you can have mines on left click. I personally just have mines on a separate key and just spam it a lot. It gives you more control anyways, and you kind of want to have that for Locus Mines just for aiming. Which means this build is going to be jank to a lot of people, and yeah. Alright, let me show a map demo. I want to try... I guess we'll do a tier 16 just to show it. Now this has 1 damage mod, reduce damage from crits, I'm doing less damage. My Atlas strat, by the way, is trash. I'm going Essences. I wouldn't recommend Essences with this build currently. Doing Exarch, which is fine. I would do Destructive Play, but this build's single target is questionable. Doing Expeditions, so yeah, we'll do a map, and then I'll go back, and then I'll probably end the diary.
I'm not up to that just yet.
No, I'm up to it. No, that's fine. Steel Skin on left click, everybody. No Master Mission. We'll just leave it be and see what we get. That portal sucks because it has such a large hitbox, but whatever. Again, the Bottle of Faith, you could just have a Sidonite Flask and it would probably do the same thing, give you some defense. I have the Wind Commandment of Winter thing, which is like when you're hit thing. Uh-oh. I still like using Artillery Ballista for some extra defense. Temporal Bubble is a little annoying, but it's not like the end of the world, because Locus Mines can hit a little bit of it. Yeah, Contempt Essences are definitely my bane, plus the Lightning guys. But you can see like my single target is questionable here. Again, my bow still very... The other thing is, like, I don't know if my bow's, like, really worth a tier 16 map. Or a lot of my gear, for crying out loud. I still like having Raslotha for... Raslotha for the extra flask charges. It's probably not needed. You could probably go Garakon for shock resistance. That's totally valid. I might just put a Jewel on for shock res instead. Because I like Raslotha a lot. Still haven't gotten the Pantheon for Raslotha for reduced regen, so we'll see how that goes. Alright. Crit resistance, increase AoE, that's fine. Yeah, Essence monsters are probably... This is why I think Essences is bad for this build. Because, well, they're arguably some of the... They're tankier than map bosses, and like I said, I feel the struggle. This is tier 16 for what it's worth, and again, I don't know if tier 16 is the right call. Yeah, okay, not so bad, right? Oh yeah, Consecrated Ground. I do have Flask-wise. I finally geared up my flask, so we reuse at the end of flask effects, not the way I would use when charges reach full in retrospect. Reshark Night Chance, that's fine, not really needed. The ones I recommend are Increase Evasion, Reduce Curse Effect, Reduce Effect of Freeze and Chill, though you could swap that out with just Betrayal Craft. And Reduce Effect of Shock, Reduce Effect of Curse, Reduce Effect of Shock, and Evasion Rating, or Movement Speed, instead of Reduce Effect. All of that would be fine. Oh god, Corpse Explosions. I hate these guys for some reason. They have been killing me recently. Don't know why. But you see the build is still like squish. It occasionally dies. I don't know if it's full on Cast and Death Portal, but it's up there. Run away. Brian King really helps because not having to worry about freezing immunity is nice. You could get freezing immunity in other ways, of course, and then like do Soul of Solaris or something, or Purity of Elements. But Purity of Elements isn't like this build's hard to fit Aurazone, like I was saying before. I have Val Grace, which is really nice. Don't have 21, 23 gems. Which goes back to saying, I'd say this build's slower to set up than other than full-on meta League start builds. But that's more because it's an attack build, and less because it's actually bad, I think. I just haven't bothered gearing. Like, if you gear faster than I do, you'll be totally fine, I'd wager. I don't have firsthand, I can't say that firsthand, of course, but some people I've known at least one person playing Locus Mines with like Power Siphon and a decent wand and going Assassin for power charge stuff. Actually, and says it's really good. I honestly want to try switching to wands, but you can see the mind jank kicking in too. I have Ghost Stance and Lethe Shade too, for what it's worth, and I guess they're useful. Lethe Shades, like, I don't die to ailments fast enough. Like, Ignites and Poisons are rarely kill me, as opposed to Degen Ground. I don't trust Degen Ground nearly as much as I trust Poison and Ignite damage. Not to mention you can remove Poison and Ignite through various means. The Wind. Oh, Wind Ripper. Yeah. You do want a decent damage bow, but they're not that expensive this league, so... Extra fire damage. Those winged guys do the Molten Shell shotgunning, the Molten Orb shotgunning that seems to kill me sometimes. But you can see how, like, even without taunt, the ballistas draw some aggro, and that's really useful. Not to mention, the big other thing that ballistas do is they give ignite chance, or they proc ignites faster, which means more damage for me. There we go. So, a lot of you might be going, oh wow, this build looks crap, and you'd probably be right. It's mediocre. It's doing tier 16s, but not, I would say, comfortably. But not uncomfortably either. For a person who doesn't really make build guides, I actually am pleased with how powerful this skill is. I'd recommend putting in more gear investment than I have. Like, I don't even have a Divine's worth of bow here. Oh yeah, and you gotta watch out for the earthquake that the stupid thing does, because it hurts a lot. There we go, easy. So that's a map demo. And map mods again. Fizz is lightning, reduce extra crit, so I was doing less damage. Frenzy charge intense, so possibly more damage. Yeah, so you can see, like, it can do, like, okay-ish mods, like triple. You're not going to do, like, triple damage mods without dying a lot or something, but yeah, take it for what you will, what you think this build looks like. I will say, I do think it could be stronger. This is a thing where I'm like, wow, this build, if somebody with actual build guide acumen took on this build, they would figure out something really OP with it. I suspect Power Siphon Wands is really strong with this, because you can get power charges from devastating devices and charge mines. Minefield might not even be needed. I don't really have much tattoos, I just threw in whatever I picked up. Regen mana, and that doesn't matter. 1-7 lightning damage doesn't matter. Chaos res doesn't matter. Do you have any others? Active marks, you know, like, they're relevant, but they don't matter. Nothing build defining tattoo wise. Yeah, I was asked to post like a POB or a skill tree, and that's going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to do that when I get around to it. I do have a POB, but it's out of date, and I'm not going to link that because it has some erroneous stuff. But for those questions, I will give a TLDR. I went for precise technique for most of my leveling until I felt like comfy switching to crit. I'll let you decide when you think that is. Precise technique was really good. I swapped to Locus Mine almost immediately. You get that at level 8. I used Lightning Arrow until I felt I got coverage. I got coverage when I got returning projectiles and like Fork, essentially. Like, so once you get to Act 4, you can swap to Burning Arrow pretty comfily, especially with you could go Ricochet instead of Far Shot for that. I even might think Ricochet is still better than Far Shot as far as like with returning projectiles at least. But yeah, just once you get like Fork and LMP, you're fine. So yeah, Act 4, I would recommend doing the Burning Arrow swap. Until then, Lightning Arrow is more than enough. Get Charge Mines. You don't get Charge Mines until level 31 though, which is another reason to keep Lightning Arrow out. So yeah, Charge Mines, Fork is probably a good swapping point for Burning Arrow as well, maybe. But until then, Lightning Arrow. But you can do Lightning Arrow, Locus Mines super early, Precise Technique, and then swap to crit when you feel like it. I swapped when I got like Charge Mines and Devastating Devices, and yeah, once you get power charges, that might be a good time. And yeah, it's not. And you know, details I'll post later, like what skills I swapped in, but generally grab the relevant skills as you get through levels and do those swaps I said of Precise Technique and into Burning Arrow, into crit, yeah. And then the other stuff is frivolous and just trying to figure out. So hope that helps with the build diary. And build diary done, demo done, yep.